All right, let's look at making our graph number 1 today. So first thing we'll do, we will make sure that we have our chart from last time. I saved mine to my desktop, but again, I asked you guys to put it in your documents folder, which should be off to the right side. And the name of that folder is your first name followed by the first letter of your last name. Or you could email it to yourself, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, whatever email account you may have, you may use it. Or you could use a flash drive, which you just put in the USB port of the computer. So go ahead, get that file, and I got mine here, Mr. Yenaganush Recycling. I'm going to open it, okay? So double click it. Let's open that up. We want to make sure that we have our name on top. We have all our information included. I've gone ahead and filled in all the rest of my answers here and numbers and gotten my totals and everything, okay? Now again, I have some question marks here because who knows when the baby's going to come, who knows when I'm going to be gone, and who knows what information you guys are going to be using. You may have another set of data past January 25th to include, okay? So I have everything finished up. You should have printed this already. You should have saved it, so you still have it. You want to hold on to it, and you should have turned it into your folder. Now that we have this, great. Keep it how it is. Let's look at our assignment sheet. I'll go to the website, www.uscience.wix.com/about. And once that comes up, I'll click on the environmental science link. Now recall from the recycling assignment that we have 3 graphs we're going to make. This is just the first one today that we're going to talk about. So you have this sheet of paper. You don't have to download this one if you already have this sheet of paper. But I'm going to pull it up so we can all look at it together. All right, so we did chart. Now we're moving on to graph number 1, second part of the assignment. The assignment says create a line graph that shows the amount recycled for each material, plastic, paper, aluminum, and each date, okay? That's pretty easy. So here's what we have to do. Let's begin by looking at this information. This is all my information here, right? This is all my paper now. This is all my information here. We want to make one that shows the total amount of aluminum, paper, and plastic for each day, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is this. The information we're using is just right here, okay? We're not using totals on the top or on the bottom. We're going to be graphing aluminum, paper, and plastic for each date, okay? So I'm just going to select, and you can see it all highlighted here, the information that's going to be in the graph. And I do that by clicking and dragging across, okay? So you should be at this point now. And we want to go up to charts. When I click on charts here, a lot of different options pop up. I can have an area chart, bar, bubble, column, donut, line pie, radar stock, and beyond. But we don't need those. We said we're going to do a line graph, right? Now of these different lines, let's do this one where it shows each data point, okay? This is called a marked line. We'll go ahead and click on this. Now this is great because all we have to do is click on it, and with the information we've given, bam, we got a graph. It's that easy. Okay, it's a very professional, shows a lot of information, very clean, great looking graph. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to move it down to the next page so that I can make it nice and big and I can read this much more easily, okay? I suggest you do the same too. Alright. So, really this is all the information we need. We could just leave the graph here at this point and great, most people would understand what's going on, but we need to put in a lot of other information. We need to label the axes, we need to give it a title, we need to make sure all the information here is very clear, okay? So, this is what we're going to do. If you haven't pulled this up already, go up to the toolbox and click on it. when you click on the toolbox, you'll get this little window that appears. There it is. It's called the formatting palette. This is your friend. You must have it. Okay, so if you don't get it to pull up, make sure you pull it up. If you close out and you log in the next day to do it, make sure you pull up the formatting palette. It's going to help you very much. What I want to do is, let's give this chart or this graph a title. Okay, so underneath the chart options here, we see titles. I can put a chart title in. I can put in the horizontal axis, which is the y-axis, or the x-axis down here, right? This is the x horizontal axis, or the vertical axis. This is the vertical axis, or the y-axis we learn about in math, right? So I'm going to do the chart title and give it a good name that tells anyone what this graph is about. So someone who has no idea what's going on in the school, no idea that we have recycling even taking place or what we recycle, they should be able to look at this graph and understand exactly what this is trying to show, okay? So the chart title I'm going to give is Nenana Public School, remember to capitalize, recycling I'll change that, amount of recycling. Nenana Public Schools amount of, doesn't make sense, does it? Amount of recycled materials. Okay, and now I see that it pops up right here on the top. Nenana Public Schools amount of recycled materials. Okay? I said I want to give the x-axis and the y-axis a label as well. So now I click here and check the horizontal axis. What's on the horizontal axis? Well, we see 10 to 12, 10, 9, 12. These are the dates, right? So underneath it, I'll just put dates of recycling. Remember to keep these non-prepositions for you people who know grammar lingo. Non-prepositions should be recycled. So dates of recycling, capitalize it. And then the y-axis. So I'll click on my vertical axis, that's over here. And what do these numbers represent? Well, if you recall from our chart, up above here in our Excel document, this is the amount that we are recycling in pounds, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to label this. Amount recycled. And I'll put pounds, okay? Or you could just abbreviate it and put LBS. And now we see that it pops up here on the side. What you may want to do is you could always change the sizes of these, okay? So I could go up now to, if I select this information that I just put in, amount recycled, I can go up to the font at the top of my formatting palette and change it from a 10 to a 12 if I want it bigger. Maybe I do want it bigger, maybe I don't. I would say though to keep that fairly small and make sure your chart title is pretty nice and big. Okay? Alright, so now we have most of that almost done just by putting in the titles. That's great. One thing I would say is that these are kind of difficult to read. We have from 0 to 100. The paper is kind of tough. We can't tell exactly how much has been recycled for October 2nd. Is it 50 pounds, close to 50 pounds? We don't know just by looking at this graph. So let's go through and make a few changes to these. If we look under the chart options here on the formatting palette, we can see that we are showing both axes, the X and the Y. We have major and minor grid lines. These major grid lines are these ones going across, right? We can see these actual grid lines. So we have the horizontal selected. Let's click on vertical. Okay, that gives us some grid lines going up and down. Then we can click on minor ones. The minor ones go in between the majors. So we get some vertical minor grid lines and some horizontals as well. Okay? These are all options that we have here, so I just like to open it up sometimes and take a look at them. We have our legend. Our legend is here. On the formatting palette, you can decide where you want it. If you want it in the top right, You can move it up. You can just click it and select it and move it, but when you select it here and do it, it'll put it in a nice square place usually, okay? If you want to change what it says here, aluminum, paper, or plastic, what you have to do is you have to actually change that up here on your chart. And so when I go and look at my chart, if I change what this says, aluminum cans, or whatever it is that I change it to, it's going to actually pop up differently in my legend, okay? I'm just going to leave it as aluminum instead of aluminum cans because we did recycle some aluminum that was not in the form of cans. Okay. Now, one more thing that I want to do is I want to stretch this out a bit. I feel like it's a little bit, it doesn't really show the information as well as I would like it to because it's not quite as big as it could be. So I'm going to stretch these corners. We're missing some dates on here as well on our x-axis. I'm not sure what happened there. It's alright, we'll come back to it later. At the bottom we have chart styles, okay? We can change the colors for our lines if we'd like. Keep in mind when you print these out, they won't be in color. They're going to be black and white, so you're just going to see different shades of gray. With that said, after you print it off, what you should do is you should take a colored marker, and you should go through and you should take, if it's paper, like this is paper, this top line, you should go through and maybe you're going to decide to make that red. We'll take a marker, color over it, use a straight edge. Don't just use your free hand because it'll be shaky and look not very good. I would color over it with a straight edge, making sure we have nice straight lines, and then I would color the legend paper. I would make that red so that it matches with it. And then I do the same for aluminum and plastic, okay? If you scroll down, you get a lot of different options for color combinations. You could even change the background colors, make it look pretty spiffy, okay? I'm just playing around with it a bit to see what else we can change around. Now I have all my dates in for recycling. I have my pounds on the side. I'm going to add back in my minor axes. Okay. And I think that's pretty good. At this point, I'm going to save my Word document or my Excel document. Save. Make sure that it's in a good location. I can email it to myself. I can put it in my documents folder, which for you guys should be off to the right. And then I'm going to do one more save. All right, so this will be saved in my Excel file, but what I also want to do is make a really easy to print off form of this graph here. Now if I move my cursor over here to the right where there's nothing for it to select, right, it's just selecting background, I'm going to push Control on my keyboard here, just underneath the Shift button. I'm going to push Control and I'm holding it right now, and I'm going to click on my little clicker on my laptop. When I do, this window pops up and I'm going to go to Save as Picture. It's going to take this graph and save it as a picture. And it automatically gives us a PNG. That's our format. I'm going to change that. I don't want it to be PNG. I want it to be JPEG. Okay? I'm going to give it a name. You could just call it chart number 1. Or you could call it amount of each material recycled, because that is what we're trying to show here. Aluminum, paper, and plastic. How much is being recycled? I'm just going to leave it as chart number 1. I'm going to save it not to pictures folder but to my desktop. Again, this is where you guys want to save it to your document folder or email it to yourself. Once I do that, I'm going to close out of this. Here's my chart. When I open it, it's just the chart. I don't have Excel in the background, nothing else. And now I can just go to File and Print, and print it off to printer number 4. That's in my classroom. Or I could do it to the library printer 14, but we don't need to, okay? Printer number 4, keep it there. Print it and we're good to go. Make sure your name is on it. I would write it on the back of this paper, just in pencil. Again, make sure you color the lines on this graph so that when they print off in grays and gray tones, you have some color added to it, and you want to change that in your legend off to the side as well, okay? Turn that into your folder when you're done, and good luck.